वातापि गणपतिं भजेऽहं वातापि गणपतिं भजेऽहं वातापि गणपतिं भजेऽहं वारणास्यं वरप्रदं श्रीवातापि गणपतिं भजेऽहं वारणास्यं. Namaskaram and welcome to Swararaga's YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me in episode 12 as we explore Carnatic music and in the process build an educated Rasika. In the past few episodes, we've been talking about musical compositions. In continuation with that, today we will talk about some of the interesting features that a musical composition has, or the embellishments that I talked about in the previous episode. The most important feature for a composition is its poetry that decides the metric of the composition, rhythmic aspect of the composition. Along with that comes the prosody that defines the rules of the composition. A prasa is meant for rhyming syllables or words that gives us clues as to where the avartanam starts or ends. Let's take a look at the three prasa that is used in our Carnatic music. The first is the Dvitiya Akshara prasa. Dvitiya Akshara is the rhyming of the second syllable that appears in the pallavi or the subsequent areas or in each pada. It is interesting to note that while talking about the Dvitiya Akshara prasa, the pada is also important. A pada tells us the metric or the length of a particular composition to complete one avartana. So the use of Dvitiya Akshara prasa tells us when that completion happens. Vatapi Ganapatim Bhaje, a popular composition of Sri Muthuswami Dikshitar. The Anupallavi of that composition goes like Bhutadi Samsevita Charanam Vatapi and Bhutadi. Another example for the Dvitiya Akshara Prasam would be a composition of Saint Tyagaraja, Rama Bhakti Samrajya. Rama Bhakti Samrajya Me Manavula Kabenu Manasa. The Rama Bhakti and Mema. The Anupallavi will also have the same rhyming syllable where the ma appears in the Anupallavi of the second syllable of the Anupallavi. Amalavula Saldashana, the ama, rhyming with the Rama Bhakti ma. In a composition that does not have an Anupallavi or just has the Samashti Charanam, like many of the compositions by Sri Muthuswami Dikshitar, also follow the same Dvitiya Akshara Prasam. Let's take a quick example. Shri Saraswati Namostute Varade Paradevate in the Ragam Arabi. The Sa Shri Saraswati. The Charanam starts like Vasavadhyara Vivarjita. Clearly the Sa is the Dvitiya Akshara Prasam used by Muthuswami Dikshitar. It is important to know that the rhyming syllables can be the same syllable like Vatapi Bhutadi, the same syllable, or it can also use a Vargaksharam or any syllable that appears in that category. For example, Ka, Ka, Ga, Ga, or Cha, Cha, Ja, Ja, or ta, ta, da, da, or pa, pa, ba, ba. Any of this can be replaced and not the exact ta each time. Moving on, an anuprasam is something that uses the repetition of the same syllable in multiple areas of the composition. For example, a famous composition by Saint Tyagaraja, Yochana Kamala Lochana Lanubro Yochana. As you can see, the chana, lochana, and then sochana. The chana is a word that Tyagaraja has chosen to use multiple times in different ways to rhyme with the other words in the composition. That is an anuprasam. The third variety of the prasam is called as the antyaprasam, which means the rhyming syllables appear in the end. To take an example of Sri Muthuswami Dikshita's Ramachandram Bhavayami in the Ragam Vasanta. Ramachandram Bhavayami Raghukula Tilakam Bhupendram Bhumija Nayakam Mukti Muktidayakam. The kam, as you can see in the end, is the rhyming or antyaprasa that Muthuswami Dikshita has used for the composition. Another example for a Nantyaprasam would be a composition of Sowmya Subramanian, the Ragam Pilu. Bajare Yatunatam Manas Bajare Yatunatam Paramahamsa Tatvasvarupam Pranavapayodara Pranavasvarupam. The rupam is the antyaprasam, or the word that keeps repeating in the composition. Moving on, we'll take a quick look at another embellishment that a composition usually takes, which is called a yati or monai in Tamil music. A yati is the letter that appears after a pause in the kriti. In the Madhyamavati composition of Palinsu Kamakshi by Sri Shyama Shastri, it goes like this. Palinsu Kamakshi Pavani Papashamani. The Palinsu, the starting word, and Papa, that Papa that happens after a brief pause is called as a yati. Another example for a yati would be a composition of Sri Tyagaraja in the Ragam Hamsadvani. Raghunayakane Padayuga Rajiva Mulane Vidajala Shri Raghunayakane Padayuga. The Ra, the Raghunayaka and Rajiva tells us the yati. As you can see, the yati and prasa are guiding factors to understand a composition in depth. We have talked so much about compositions so far. It is time to talk about some of the known composers that have contributed to the compositions or our Kalpita Sangeetam. In the next episode, we will take a look at some of the famous composers, and I hope you will join me for that next time. Thank you and Namaskaram.